Hello, and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven VC podcast, whereby we are reshaping life, leadership, business, and investing from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming to the show Vivek M. I'm going to say Vivek M, and you can pronounce your surname Vivek because I could not for the life of me. I was getting like tongue-tied, and you said just call him Vivek. But we do need to know your surname. So over to you, and welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm Vivek Muralidharan, and like I said, Muralidharan is my dad's first name, so never mind. Just call me Vivek. Vivek M is fine. My official documents call me Vivek M, right? So I am Vivek Muralidharan, and I am a venture studio builder here in Ulm, Germany. Basically, building something from the ground up and being a lean, mean idea making machine is what I do for a living.
Lean Mean Idea Making Machine. And we met the other week and you had this amazing bright coloured shirt on, and it said a lot about you, Lean Mean Idea Making Machine, because it is all around the creativity and that blank canvas. And so without further ado, let's give you a little bit of an intro and then I'll hand it over to you, because you're a co-founder and overall studio head of the venture studio, which is 33 Blueprints Collective, which started in January of this year. So I'm quite honoured to be talking to you because it's only 3 months old, if that. It's a baby. It's only just literally been birthed. So there's so many questions I could ask around how's a little bambino going 3 months in. You know, when you think about business, it is like a baby. It has all its, when you start something so new, you're learning from scratch, right? The studio is currently in pre-registration phase with plans to establish a venture fund and invest in startups once fully operational. Love to get into that. You're a venture builder yourself, working at the intersection of AI first ventures, deep tech, and sustainability. Focused on, like you say, taking those ideas from what I like to call a blank canvas to scalable companies. And I just find a blank canvas such an exciting time in terms of anything is possible and you can shape it, reshape it. Like, it's very formless in that regard. I think of it like a formless labs, if you like, in terms of the ability to, you might think you start here, but you might end up in a completely different space. So we'll jump into that as well. You had a career in manufacturing, innovation management, and product development previously. And then you said you transitioned out of corporate to build the venture studio here in Germany. And essentially it's hands-on work, hands-on from concept to market, shaping strategy, validating user needs, and building high-performing teams around new ventures. Certainly need those high-performing teams. By the sounds of things, your approach to company building is systems-driven. So combining customer insight, structural experimentation, and operational discipline to create ventures that are both technically strong and commercially viable. You focus not just on ideas, but on building the conditions where those ideas can scale through the right teams, processes. And my most favorite bit is the iteration cycle, because it is a continuous iteration. You know, we're always iterating. There's no such thing as failing. You can fail, but then you just iterate on the next thing, right? And so at the core of your work is the belief that great ventures aren't, I guess, rigid. They're designed through clarity, feedback, and continuous evolution. I'll hand it over to you because I'd love to firstly start with what made you shift from corporate to, you had a long corporate career, to building something ground up in what you're building, because I know that's really what you want to talk about. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I've always wanted to start a business, right? I remember sometime around my sixth grade when I used to make sketches of like an actual problem that I wanted to solve was, I had to walk all the way to a vending machine and get, fresh milk every morning. And I wanted to kind of make that a business model, right? How to deliver business milk in Tetra packs. Back then in India, it wasn't ever in Tetra packs, right? So those kind of things is what I wanted to do always. But I had to work, right? Obviously, because, the fear of failure is really high in India. There is a social sentiment around failing, so I had to take the easy route or a safe bet of a corporate career, and that's exactly what I did for about 17 years. But when I was 33 years old, in 2020, I had COVID. I almost died. and I'm not exaggerating. I was in a serious situation where I had a stroke, and one of my lungs
Oh, I'm
stopped
so
working, and it was
sorry.
really serious. And when I came out of it, right, 15 kilograms lighter, I
How
was
many
like
kilos? How many
15,
kilos, Vivek?
1 5,
Wow.
right? So when I came back, I gained it all back. But when I came back, right, the first thing I thought is, what do I give back to the world, right? I mean, life is limited and finite. What do I do in return? So I decided that I wanted to solve at least one problem for every year that I have been in this world. And that is the onset of 33 blueprints. Right. So when I was 33 years old, I wanted to solve 33 problems. Now I'm 38. So more problems to solve. And when this happens, I realized that I can't do it alone, right? You need a collective around you, and that's the reason my studio is called 33 Blueprints Collective, and that's exactly the start of my journey. But it took again another 5 years before I could actually, build up this business or take that call. It was sometime around 2024 when I decided to do this full, like give it a real thought, and I was working on it. I was making connections, building concepts and everything. And my biggest inspiration and my biggest critic is my wife. And she was actually sparring with me and trying to understand what I want to do and stuff. And then one day she was like, you know what, here is the laptop that I want you to use to build up your business, because I don't want you to play around with your mobile phone trying to make presentations and stuff, or use your work laptop to do that. And that, for me, though it's a small gesture, it was actually the feeling that, oh, now my biggest critic trusts me, so I have to
Yeah.
make it. And this was the reason why I started giving it a lot more effort. Sometime around December, I decided that, you know what, I am not making the impact I want to in the corporate. Not that I had a bad corporate career per se, but what I want to do, I'm not able to do there. So I thought, okay, let's give this a try. And January, I started doing this full time.
Wow. And what's that been like? You go from this, like, there's so much to unpack here. You nearly died from COVID. You had a stroke. That is so heavy. And yet, from serious adversity, you had this moment and you were like, there's more to life than this. And like you say, life is infinite and is limited and infinite. I think you
Finite,
mentioned
finite. I said finite.
finite. Sorry,
Yeah.
finite. And it's so true. It's like you just never know what's around the corner. And so you have that moment, but then it takes you a few more years to I guess have the full courage to go, right, that's it. I am jumping off corporate world, the hamster wheel as I know it, the full-time salary as I know it, to go into pre-registration phase of a venture studio. That would be quite a moment, surely, in terms of, because since you've had what happened, do you not get scared anymore or worried? Like, yeah, I guess where I'm going with this is to go from this big corporate role into then starting something.
So okay, there is always a worry, right? Fear of failure is really high. I have been successful in my corporate career, in my school, in my college, right? So I really have that, or I had that fear of failure. But then again, COVID wasn't the only time I almost died. I was hit by a truck, a literal truck. And when I was 14, almost died then. Had another issue where I almost died again for dengue, and then COVID.
NDEs, I call them
I mean, I'm
near-death
like a cat.
experiences.
I have 9 lives.
Yeah, you do. I call them NDEs, not near-death experiences. I've had a few myself, but haven't been hit by a truck. I've had a cinema roof collapse on me, but like, it's always given me an insight every time an NDE's happened.
So for me, it is like that. And by nature, I'm an impulsive person. It's not that, oh, you know what, I was really scared to start this business per se. It was only a performance pressure that I had, right? Okay, is this the right time for me to start? Is the environment right? I mean, to tell you the truth, right, I'm not a serial entrepreneur, and I want to start a venture studio. So there is always that gap that I need to fill with my corporate experience before I'm ready to build ventures, right? And these kind of things is why it took me so long. It was never that I was too scared to do it per se.
Amazing. Tell us a little bit about your venture studio, because it's super interesting. And when we caught up the other week and had a bit of a chat pre-pod or pre-show, I should say, and we were talking about this blank canvas and this iterative cycle, and understanding the insight, through to operational structure, the high performing team piece, and that need for the iteration. Tell us a little bit about your process and how you're seeing your venture studio, I guess, different to what we've seen up until now. Like, what is it that you're doing differently or building differently?
So to talk about the process, right? The first step within a venture creation process in 30 in our first ventures, the question that we asked was, what is the regulation landscape in EU gonna open up in terms of opportunities and challenges for us in the next 5 years? Right? We start with this overall opportunity area, a framing question, and based on that, we do something called strategic foresight, which is scenario modeling, right? So you understand the pestle landscape around this question. You understand what are the drivers and key drivers around this. You create 4 scenarios, and based on the 4 scenarios, you ask questions like, okay, for this particular scenario, which is such rosy picture, unicorns, rainbows, so on and so forth, what are you actually gonna solve in such a scenario? At the same time, in a dystopian future, what do you need to do to ensure that when it's everything is, a wild west, there is no regulation, what kind of opportunities are there? How can you nudge the future towards the right direction? And then you have to moderate scenarios, right? So for all these 4 scenarios, we try to ideate, we create jobs to be done, and we talk to people about these ideas, right? And sometimes we have anywhere between 100 to 200 ideas every iteration. So we talk to people. We use desk research, user empathy research, expert interviews to understand which ones are really strong. Once we have a picture around this, we pick one combination of these ideas that can be the best hypothesis for us, and we take that. And then we start with first principles thinking. We start asking questions, really fundamental questions about the venture architecture, and collect data. And at a point of time, with multiple redirections in iterations, we come to a point where we know that, hey, this is the venture that we want to build. And, that is when we, somewhere during this process, we also recruit a founder, right? We use a process called convergence to do that, which has a 5-step process, which starts with what is their domain expertise, what is their interests, skills, experience, what are their intrinsic qualities, extrinsic qualities, impact orientation, what are their value fits, what are their archetype as a founder, and then we see how well they converge towards our vision, and we bring them in. So
Love
once you
I love that. Yeah, I love that you tap into not just extrinsic, intrinsic personality, their archetype, their values. You said something about impact. What was that
impact
impact?
orientation, impact
Impact orientation.
orientation.
Can you explain a little bit about that for the audience, please? What you mean by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, right? When we started the venture studio, right? Though we did not want to start a social entrepreneurship business, not that I have anything against it. I'm not the right person to do that because of the sheer lack of expertise or experience in that. But yeah, of course, in a future cohort, we might do that. But getting back, I digress, sorry. So when we talk about impact orientation, the whole logic that we have is we won't build anything that has no positive impact on humankind, right? Whatever we build needs to have a positive impact towards what the world is headed towards, right? And for that, when you look at, I told you that we use a process to select our ideas, right? Those 200 ideas to one of the criteria that we use is the number of lives touched. So when we have a venture, how many lives are we actually touching in terms of making it better? And if you look at our value system also, our first and primary value is respect, and that respect is We respect the humankind, everybody, everywhere in this world, not just our people, not just our customers, but everybody. And it is our responsibility to take out unnecessary obstacles from people's lives. And that is the kind of ventures that we want to build.
I love that. And I love that you call it framing the question, which for me is, and you call it an opportunity. Don't call it you're solving a problem, but you are essentially, but you're framing it as, well, what's the opportunity that we want to solve here? Coming right back to, you said when you had the stroke through COVID and you woke up and you were like, I have 33 problems I want to solve. How are you correlating those? Because you said you're 38 now, so now you've got 38 problems. But are you
Yes.
actually tangibly looking at what problem you are at based on that mission that you had around 33? Do you know what I mean? Because I keep going back to you. You made this point where you said 33 blueprints collectives comes from these 33 problems that you want to solve.
So we have a
How are
target,
you?
right? Yeah. So we have a target. And right now we have set it at 6 ventures per year. At least that's how we started, right? And we knew that after a point of time, we are going to break even in terms of the number of problems we solve as we grow bigger. My collective becomes bigger. It's not just me solving 33 problems, it's a collective solving the problems with me. So that is the idea behind it. But we decided in our best interest to not prioritize numbers in the first couple of years. What we need is the impact, right? It doesn't matter in the end if it's 33 problems or 50 problems or 10 problems. Are they the 10 problems that are actually solving something real, right? And for that reason, we decided in the first 2 years, we are not going to focus on the numbers game. We're going to focus on the quality, which is why we are right now focusing on 3 ventures instead of 6. And that is what we will be prioritizing this year. But there is a break even analysis I did, right? How many people do I need? How many ideas do I need per year? And when do I actually get to that 33?
Yeah, which is, yeah, there has to be a break even. Tell us a little bit about that. Let's dive into a little bit about, you go from corporate, you've now you're now full time. I shouldn't say 24/7. You're full time in your venture studio. You go from this regular salary to now like you're an entrepreneur. And you said, I'm not an entrepreneur, but you essentially are, because you've started your own venture studio. What's that been like for you as a founder, as a co-founder? Has that been a big adjustment for you? Has it, what's that been like?
Smooth as butter. No, of course not. So, of course not. So, yeah, I knew this is what I wanted to do, right? There was no second thoughts about it. I still don't have any second thoughts about it. I know I'm in it for the long run. When I tell you about the nature of my business, you'll know that it is not a short term revenue kind of thing. It is a long term
No.
investment of time and
Yes.
human capital. So I know I have no second thoughts about it. But yeah, when 28th of each month, since the last 3 months, salary hasn't been hitting my bank account, it hurts, right?
That's what I wanted
And
to get to,
yeah,
and I think the audience would love to hear this, because
yeah, yeah,
you know, when people say to you, and I've done this, you come out of corporate, you're on this really good salary, it's regular, you don't think about things like you do when you're in your own startup, because it's just always there. Like, you don't have, like, when you're sick, you get sick pay, you're sick sort of thing. Like, I'm just using that as an
exactly.
example. When you go on holidays, you get holiday pay. Like, and then you go from this big corporate career into this, like you say, like, the same as you. I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is my mission. This is what I'm meant to be doing. This is my path. This is my life. There's no turning back. But it's not easy. There's some days when I'm
It
like,
isn't.
whew, how low can we go in terms of, how low can you get from a financial? Am I going backwards or am I going forwards? But I always think to myself, and again, back to the audience, just so you can hear this, is I'm always going forwards, because I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm building and I'm fulfilling my mission. But I have to just remind myself that it doesn't just happen overnight. And
It
so,
isn't.
so much changes. You have to change the way you spend your money. There's lots of things that you sacrifice. I don't know. Yeah, you do. You sacrifice a lot for
It is a
the
sacrifice,
impact you
right?
want to make with the humans. Yeah.
Yeah. as long as I was with the corporate, right, I had a very ugly perspective on buying things, in my opinion, which is basically the more expensive it is, the better it is. Right? I would buy the best selvage jeans from Japan. I would buy these. I wouldn't go even for Levi's. I would go for free note cloth
You
from
sound like
US, or
me.
I'd go with fundamental from Japan. Right? So that's how I used to do things. Right? The most expensive thing is the best thing. A Samsung monitor. I need an Apple monitor. I need an Apple tab. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Not to
Relating to this so well because
Yeah,
that
exactly. So there needs to be a sense of austerity here, right? Because when you understand that there is something that you're trying to do which is bigger than yourself, I think you need to have that sense of austerity, that it's not about money, it's not about spending. Good thing is that when I had money, I did buy things that last a lifetime. So it's gonna last me a lifetime. I don't need another jeans. I don't need another jacket. I don't need another vehicle, right? So all of these things actually are reassuring. So I just look at the bigger picture and continue. And I have no shame in admitting that my spouse is still understands that I do like shiny things, and you know spoils me every now and then. So I mean, I have nothing to complain then. Right?
yeah, I love it. Tell us a little bit a bit more around I guess iteration, the cycle of the iteration cycle. You know, your early stages, you're only, like I said, your pre-registration phase, you're 3 months in. Like and you've been you've been building this business in the background for quite some time. As much as you're coming up with businesses as well as part of framing the question, and then what problems are you solving, or what opportunities, how much has your business evolved in like the last 3 months as well itself? Like, have you, like, is it a
It
constant
has.
iteration?
It
Is the
is.
studio a constant iteration? Yeah.
It is, right? So I'll give you an example. When we started out, we called ourselves an impact business, right? I mean, I still thought that there is an impact element to what we are trying to build, but an impact business has a different definition to what we are trying to do. We are still trying to build commercial businesses which has some impact on the humankind, but we are not necessarily a social entrepreneurship or an impact company, right? So that framing itself needed to change in the first couple of months. My convergence platform, which was about a psychrometric analysis and a scientific study, had to change, because in the end, I'm not running a consultancy. I don't think I have, as an early stage venture studio, thousands of people lining up to sign up. So I need to have personal connections with these founders. I need to talk to them. I need to understand. So just getting a test done is not going to cut it, right? So that is something that I had to do again. Recently, we had something called Convergence as a, Concierge as a platform, right? So we want to advise founders both as a human and through an AI assisted approach to build up these ventures, right? So we realized that, if we are going to build repeatable technical businesses, can we build a technical spine already within the studio that we can then apply to use cases and industry verticals and build ventures around it? It's technical direction that we very recently contemplated. So we are constantly doing this, and there is no way around it.
Yeah, incredible. And how many co-founders do you have? Did you say, is it three of you,
So
right?
I
Is it
have
three?
no, it is actually two of us. We had a third person that we couldn't come to terms with, in a way. I mean, it wasn't a founder, but we were evaluating them to work with us, because she's an exceptional serial founder for sure, but because she has multiple businesses, she wasn't able to give that justice to our studio, and we decided to part ways amicably. But right now within the studio, I have myself from India living in Germany. I have a English person who lives in Germany in the same city as I do. He's the product head. His name is Mark Griffiths. And I have three founders within the businesses we are building. So one is Chitra, who's a dear friend of mine as well. And she's an AI ethics researcher. We have Sudhakaran, who used to intern for me long ago and right now is a sustainability expert, and we have him for the second venture. I have someone called Rishi who is a student here, and he wants to found a business already, and he reached out to me saying that he wants to work with the studio, and we thought that we will do this experiment with him because he fits all the convergence requirements. So we thought, okay, let's do this experiment with Rishi.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Tell me, what do you see is I guess the requirements of a high performing team when it comes to a business?
So sanity, what I would say is often people confuse high performance with pushing themselves too hard, really to the point of burnout. I believe that a high performing team delivers consistently and keeps their sanity while doing that, right? They don't get burnt out, they don't lose their temper, they don't lose their balance. They're constantly at high commitment and high deliveries while keeping their sanity, and that's my take on it. And this also comes out of my experiments with tribal leadership. I believe that a level 4 organization and tribal leadership is the best organization. You can't be level 5 always, but you can be level 4, which means that you're always in the mode of we are great, we are delivering something together, and we are making an impact constantly. You don't always be the benchmark, but you are close to that benchmark, and that's a high performance team, in my opinion.
I love the term tribal leadership because it's true. It's the people, like for me, the leadership of today is really the ability to have the presence, the purpose, the people, and the performance. And you have all of those working together. And that constitutes what I call soulful, high flow conscious leadership. But it's also tribal in terms of it's a living, breathing part of the business. Everyone is part of it. It's a collective, exactly what you're talking about here, and I think it's really important. How do you stay sane? What keeps you sane? I mean, obviously you've got your wife who sounds like she is your rock, but like in terms of as a founder and building a venture studio, there's days, not every day you're feeling, your brightest, and you have those, we all have those moments where it's just like, "Oh, what am I doing?" I don't know about you, but I have them. It's like a roller coaster. I had a conversation with someone the other week. He's out of Berlin, and he was like, "B, you're on the founder's edge." Like this founder's edge, can you know what? Because I'm feeling like I'm so on the founder's edge right now. And I'm sure that heaps of people that are listening to this can understand that. So how do you pull yourself off the founder's edge? How do you stay sane? What is it? Yeah, I somewhat agree, but I also think there's like the team need to look after you also at times. And given your health, like it's important. Sleep is so important. Like, I think that I had a good 8.5 hours last night. I'd had a massive week last week. Helped out with my family over the weekend doing stuff, and I just went to bed. I had all this stuff I needed to do for work, and I was just like, you know what? It's Sunday night. I'm exhausted. And I woke up so much fresher today better for it, because I'd had that sleep. So I think that sometimes we take so much on, but yet, look, you ended up crashing and burning for 2 days, and then you're no good to anyone, and so you have to recover. So it's how do we have those micro active recovery moments throughout, our week that enable us to ensure that we stay sustainably thriving rather than crashing and burning all the time. And I think that it's a challenge because it isn't easy when it's, you're on the line. Everything that your whole being is on the line with your studio, right? Yeah. I love it. But look at your energy. Like, it gives you energy. Like, you can, like, it gives you creativity. Like, you're just watching you then, just like you light up. Like, and I think that's what's important. This is coming back to your sanity piece, and again, for the audience, I love it. Oh, I love it. Vivek, I know that it's Monday morning for you, and no doubt you've got a big week ahead. I had a question and it's just slipped to my mind because it's Monday evening here, and I was going to ask. Oh, yes, I know. Here, it's just come back to me. 33 Blueprints Collective. What does that look like at the end of this year? Incredible. And coming right back to life, do you have one piece of life advice or words of wisdom that you would share with the audience just to remind everyone to smell the roses? Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's such a beautiful way to end the show, and a good one for the audience to remind everybody in times like this as well, and that anything's possible. We come back to the blank canvas. Just life is beautiful, and you get to create it. And so as much as there's all this craziness in the world right now, there is still a chance to make it what you want and as beautiful as you'd like it to be. So, Vivek, thank you so much for that. How do we find out more about 33 Blueprints Collective? How do we find out more about you? Yes. And do you know what I love so much? I love the lived experience and how it shines through a business and it's shining through your business and your brand. It's like me, I'm not comparing, and I'm not. It's just that, from lived experience, you can turn that into such impactful work, and it's exactly what you're doing. And I love the way the brand name and how you're so interconnected in it. It's awesome. It's wishing you so much success, Vivek, and I look forward to chatting to you, at the end of the year or start of 2027, and yeah, to pick up the conversation and see where you are at then, and more trials and tribulations and all the feels and all the success. It's good to be authentic and, to share the realities of what it is, what it takes to do what you're doing. And I love that you've got an amazing mission that you're creating. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you. Take care, Vivek.